The Winnipeg Jets are one of the best teams in the NHL, at least through 2 months of the season. We still have a lot of runway to go. But as of right now, they are currently sitting in the second spot in the Central Division, somewhere that no one really expected them to be, especially at the start of the season. Coming off of a year where they struggled to really get their footing going, involving a change in head coaches. No one really expected much of the Winnipeg Jets and expected them to just be mediocre this season, but that has not been the case. Whether you want to argue it's because of the change in head coach to Rick Bowness and the systems that he's putting in, or whether you want to go with the obvious answer, and it is the obvious answer, that is Connor Hellebuyck, and that whenever Connor Hellebuyck is on fire, the Jets are winning. But there's one player specifically that I want to talk about in this video that I don't think is getting the credit he deserves for the season that he's currently putting up, because this is by far on track to be his career best year, and especially going into his prime years of 27 to 30 years old. And if you don't know by now, I'm talking about Josh Morrissey. He's having a career year to start off the season and putting up lots and lots of points, playing very well defensively as well as offensively. And because of the start that Josh Morrissey is off to, there's a lot of conversation, at least within Jets fandom, as to whether or not Josh Morrissey could possibly be a Norris Contender by the end of this season. And you can argue whether or not that's realistic or unrealistic, and that's just Jets fans talking just because, you know, their team doesn't get a lot of attention, I guess. The conversation is there about Josh Morrissey, about what his true potential is, what could this season look like for him, and if he keeps his pace up, could he be a Norris Contender? So in today's video, we're going to look at Josh Morrissey's season so far, as well as look at the history of Norris Contenders and Norris winners, and figure out whether or not Josh Morrissey has a realistic chance to be an early season Norris candidate. So we'll get into all that and a little bit more in this video, so without further ado, let's get into it.
I think all that lethal weapon horse shit is just an excuse so you dancers never have to get in a real.
Before we get started with the rest of the video, however, I'd just like to remind you guys to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you're new around here. Leaving likes on these videos really helps them perform better in the YouTube algorithm, helps this channel grow. So if you want to see this channel grow, again, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you do not miss another video. So let's talk about the season that Josh Morrissey is putting up. And keep in mind, this is only a quarter of the way through the season. He's only played 21 games so far, so stuff can change over the last 60 games or so of the season. But as of right now, he's on track to crush all of his career highs in terms of points, goals, assists. Right now, he has 5 goals and 20 assists through 21 games, so he's just a little bit above a point per game. 17 of those points coming through even strength and 8 of them coming on the power play, so he's making his presence known both at 5-on-5 as well as when his team is up a man. And this is also coming from a week where he was named the second star of the week in the NHL, putting up 7 points in just 4 games, so a very solid streak there for Josh Morrissey. And at the current pace that Josh Morrissey is at, and if he keeps it up for the rest of the season, which again, we'll have to see if that's the case, he's currently on pace for 97 points this season, so that's smashing his previous career high of, I believe it was 37 points, if I'm not wrong. 37 points last year in 79 games. That's his career high. He's on pace to absolutely obliterate that record this season. In terms of where he is amongst the rest of the defensemen in the NHL, he's currently 3rd in points, only behind Rasmus Dahlin and Erik Karlsson, who seem to be the favorites for the Norris right now, at least early on in the season. So this season seems to be Josh Morrissey's breakout season. He has been pretty solid in terms of point production over the past few seasons, but this season, it's really seeming like he's coming into his own as a very solid, offensively minded defenseman who can also be a minute-munching defenseman and play against the toughest competition. If you look at some of his underlying metrics, this is a card from JFresh Hockey on Twitter. He's very effective offensively, defensively, even strength-wise. It's not necessarily the best, but he's very solid offensively. He's very solid on the power play. and he's also playing against very, very good competition, which is something that he's dealt with for a few years up until this point. When the Jets were in their peak competition years, I would say that would be between 2018 and 2020. Specifically, 2018, Josh Morrissey was not their number one defenseman. He was definitely a top 4 defenseman, but definitely wasn't the guy that they relied upon to eat a bunch of minutes, get some top power play time, and play against the toughest competition out there. 2019 rolls around and Jacob Trouba is kind of the top guy for the Jets. And then the 2019-2020 season rolls around and most of their top 4 is gone. And it's Josh Morrissey being the lone remaining member of that top 4 that got them to the conference finals in 2018. And from then on, he was relied upon to eat a ton of minutes, be the number 1 defenseman for the Jets, and really be their main contributor on the blue line. And through the first few seasons that he's been that for the Jets, he's struggled to adapt and really be solid at both ends of the ice. But this season, it seems to be that he's doing very well in that department, whether or not you want to say that's due to Rick Bowness or something else. No matter what, it's Josh Morrissey at the end of the day performing like a top pairing defenseman, something that the Jets have desperately needed in order to be competitive for the past few seasons. They've really missed a top pairing defenseman who can put up a lot of points from the blue line, and this season, Josh Morrissey has done just that.
The weapon war shit is just an excuse so you dancers never have to get in a real fight.
So we've looked at some of Morrissey's numbers, we've looked at his underlying metrics, and now I think it's time to actually talk about whether or not he is in the Norris conversation by the end of the season. And if you look at previous Norris winners, the main things about them is that A, they've won it before because it's easier to win the Norris Trophy or the Vezina Trophy or the Hart Trophy when you've won it before. The fact is, the Norris Trophy usually goes out to someone who is in the top 5 in terms of points by a defenseman and has decent underlying defensive metrics or has a reputation of being a very solid defenseman in their own zone. So you look at previous winners like Cale Makar, Victor Hedman, Roman Josi. Those are all guys who can put up a lot of points but can also contribute in their own end and still be able to contribute defensively. And looking at this season, you've got a bunch of high-scoring defensemen in guys like Erik Karlsson and Rasmus Dahlin who are contributing offensively as a defenseman. Yes, but are their underlying defensive numbers really that good? If you look at Erik Karlsson's JFresh hockey card, his offensive numbers are fantastic, but his defensive numbers are god-awful. Whereas if you look at a guy like Cale Makar, who's currently sitting 7th in points for defensemen with just 21, I can't believe I'm saying just 21 points in 20 games. But if you look at his underlying numbers, he's easily one of the best defensemen in the league this season and has been for years. We all know that. He's on paper the best defenseman in the league. And then if you look at Josh Morrissey, yes, he's putting up very solid offensive numbers, but his defensive numbers are still lacking. And you can even look at guys like Tyson Barrie, who in the shortened COVID season, where it was just a 56-game year, he had the most points out of any defenseman that year, but didn't get a single vote for the Norris whatsoever because his defense is not up to par as his offensive game is. So, to be truthful, does Josh Morrissey necessarily have a chance at the Norris? I think he has a chance to get some votes at the end of the season, but he needs to keep up this pace for the remainder of the year to even get any sort of consideration for votes for the Norris. I don't think he's going to be a finalist. And if he's not a finalist, he's obviously not going to win the Norris. But what I do think we should look at with Josh Morrissey is how he's slowly developed over the last 2 seasons, despite getting tough matchups and being really the guy that the Jets have relied on the back end. His slow development, but effective development into a true top pairing defenseman. And I think the system that Rick Bowness has employed for the defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets has worked so well for guys like Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk, for them to be able to think more offensively when the team has the puck. And when they don't have the puck, obviously you need to think about defense. But if you have the puck on your stick, or if your team's in the offensive zone, you don't have to play so conservative, jump in the play, and contribute to your team's offensive success. And I think that's making it so then Josh Morrissey can put up the points that he's putting up right now. Again, do I think he'll win? No. Do I think he'll be a finalist? No. But I think if he keeps up this pace, he will get votes, he will get some recognition, and he will have cemented himself as a very, very solid top pairing defenseman in the NHL. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of Josh Morrissey's season so far? Do you think if he keeps this pace up, he could be a Norris candidate, not necessarily finalist or Norris winner, but do you think he could get some votes if he keeps up his current play for the Winnipeg Jets? But for now, that is it for this one. I did hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.